Hi, my name's Al-Hari, my pronouns are they, them, and I'm very artistic about this musical called Nerdy Prudes Must Die and the multiverse that surrounds it. It's a very hard choice to make because Hatchetfield is full of amazing characters, but Max Jägerman might just be my favorite. What can I say? I have a soft spot for high school bullies who have more depth than they let on, and also Will Branner is there. Speaking of Will, his performance as Max is just so compelling. I don't know if I'd be this invested in Max's story if he didn't deliver every single line so perfectly. His mannerisms and the little glimpses we get of Max's lighter side are just so good. I'm definitely not biased. I love Will Branner a normal amount. Some other folks have already made incredible videos on Max's character, and they're what inspired me to finally finish this script so I can throw my own ideas into the ring. You should definitely watch them after this one because they talk about interpretations of Max that are very well articulated and make a lot of sense. Now, I want to talk about an aspect of Max that I've seen discussed, but not in the kind of deep dive that I make every single day as I rotate him like a microwave in my head. I think about him too much. He lives in my brain. I want to propose to you, dear viewers, Max Jägerman as an eldritch god. Okay, that might sound bonkers, but trust me, take my claw. We're going to jump into the abyss together, and when we reach the bottom, you'll understand what I mean. The way that this musical peeks beyond the fourth wall to elevate its story is honestly phenomenal. It's so good at sprinkling little moments of symbolism to show the power held by Max Jägerman. You don't need to catch these moments to know that Max is the most powerful student in school who decides which of his peers are bullied simply by declaring it so. Max says it outright.
I'm your god.
However, before I can even start talking about the meta-symbolism in Nerdy Prudes, I have to briefly summarize another Star Kid production, The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals. Spoiler warnings for both musicals, by the way. I'd recommend watching both first, but if you don't care about spoilers, maybe this video can convince you to watch them, because they're both very, very good. The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals is about a boring man named Paul who lives in Hatchetfield. He lives a normal life until one day, a meteor falls from the sky and crashes into the town's theater. A zombie-like infection spreads through the townsfolk, called the apotheosis or the hive. The dead people infected by the hive act like they're in a musical. They sing, dance, and the people still alive see this all happening. The musical ends when it's revealed that Paul is infected and Emma is presumably the last non-hive person in the surrounding area, maybe even the world. What's very interesting about The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals is that if you pay attention, you'll realize that this ending was set in stone from the beginning. The opening song, like the rest of the show, must be happening in-universe as well. Except Emma sings in the opening song. Her fate was sealed already. In fact, everyone's fates were sealed already. They're all puppets of the hive from the beginning, introducing you to their musical origin story with a catchy opening song. The default interpretation of a musical is that you're watching a modified version of events that happen in a fictional world. In-universe, the characters aren't singing and they aren't confined to a stage. To tell the story, we use song and dance and props and all that. But in The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals, the story quite literally is a musical. The hive puppets as characters are truly on stage, singing about poison, coffee, and death. It brings you one step closer to Hatchetfield. If you can imagine the actors in front of you aren't really human actors, but dead musical zombies putting on a show. What the hell does this have to do with Nerdy Prudes Must Die? Well, the shows are both set in Hatchetfield, and both shows feature a silly little guy named Picotho. Otherwise known as Pokey, this eldritch creature from the realm of black and white loves theater. His human form in this summoning gives big theater kid energy and features some blue goop. Doesn't that look familiar?
Fucking gross!
Max's ghost makeup features blue veins, which call back to Pokey's signature color. After his death, his power grows beyond Hatchetfield High, reaching into the very theater that the show takes place in. But let's start at the beginning of the musical, because Max actually has this meta-awareness when he's still alive. The first hints that Max knows a little more than his fellow characters is in his introductory song, Literal Monster. Near the end, if you tear your attention away from Will Branner's ethereal vocal performance, you'll notice that there's a moment where Max sings directly to the audience.
You all look disappointed, but you couldn't do if you wanted. So keep on judging me, that comes within from me. You can leave, but you won't stay in your seat.
Who else could he be talking to here except the crowd sitting in theater seats directly in front of him? He claims to not only know he's on stage, but see beyond it, knowing the audience's facial expressions. After As Cool As I Think I Am, everyone is clapping, as they should. Max enters from the other side and yells at them to shut up. This scene at Pasquale's has a lot of significance regarding his god complex, but for now I want to point out a specific moment during his monologue to Pete. As he talks about his power, he mentions darkness and the stage lights go out. He isn't even a ghost yet. As the nerdy prudes begin their plan to prank him, he enters the scene from the audience. This staging choice is very interesting to me. Other characters enter this way too. Grace even hands out flyers during her introduction, but Max enters like this for the majority of his scenes as a ghost. Even if he doesn't explicitly do so, his voice echoes from somewhere off stage before he appears. Ruth, Miss Tessberger, Steph's dad, during the chase scene after the nerdy prudes get the black book. His entrances aren't the only way he reaches out. During the song Nerdy Prudes Must Die, Richie attempts to escape Max by running out of the theater entirely. How does Max, who hasn't moved from the stage, stop him? He waves his hands and the doors slam shut. His power extends beyond simple awareness, beyond the lighting, but to the theater itself. That's so fucking cool. Some smaller moments that I want to point out. He looks out at the audience instead of to the nerds during the chase, and when Steph attempts to shoot Pete, he slows down time in order to catch the bullet. While this super speed of sorts is likely a power he gained as a ghost, it's worth noting that this is still a stage production. Everything slows down because Max willed it. Okay, so we've gone over some examples of Max's meta-awareness. I'd like to take us on a detour to talk about religious symbolism in Nerdy Prudes Must Die. We'll get back to Picotho and Max, don't worry. Now, Max Jägerman might be Jesus. Hang on, let me explain. Sprinkled throughout the show are references to religion, specifically Christianity. Grace's character is obviously chock full of these references. I could do a line-by-line analysis of Dirty Girl's deeper meaning and how her fantasy version of Max foreshadows his death simply with body language, but that's a video for another day. Today I'll just be focusing on Max. There are a few one-liners that show Max has at least some level of religious knowledge, like breaking bread with Stephanie Lauder and forbidden fruit is always the sweetest, which both have religious connotations. But the most notable is his comparison of Steph to Judas at the end of the show.
Steph, you lured me to that house. You betrayed me. You're fucking Judas.
So you do know the Bible.
Wait, Judas, like the guy who betrayed Jesus? Interesting. The way that Max died is also reminiscent of Jesus, arms spread on the cross. Even the wooden boards that stab him in the chest look kind of like a cross. And then, of course, there's this line from Literal Monster.
You can watch as I rise.
On my first watches of Nerdy Prudes, I assumed this meant watch as I rise to power at Hatchetfield High. The whole song is about Max ruling the school after all. But if he already controls Hatchetfield High, he can't rise any further. Max is very self-aware about his position at the top of the food chain. He knows there isn't anywhere else to go because if there was, he'd be there already. So no, this line isn't about social power. This line is about us, the audience, watching as Max rises from the dead. An incredible piece of lyrical foreshadowing that no one would catch on their first watch. But it's also another reference to Max as Jesus, another man who came back from death. Grace even says herself that she kinda has a type.
I used to have a crush on another guy who rose from the grave. But Jesus never threw a football like you, Max.
But Max isn't Jesus. He's just a teenager with a god complex. And that's kind of the point. His attitude is reinforced by the actual power he holds both before and after his death. His death wasn't a sacrifice in the traditional sense, even if it did vastly improve the lives of everyone at school. Rising from the dead emboldened him to kill a bunch of people. I might not be a religious scholar, but I don't think that's very Jesus-like. My last point intersects our two ideas, Max having eldritch power and Max's relation to religion. It's this line from the song Nerdy Prudes Must Die.
Who will pray for me when I'm gone? Or is this the eternal dark without a dawn?
This is maybe the saddest lyric in the entire show, at least to me. Because right before Max begins his attack, what does he see? The entire school living joyfully and pretty much ignoring the fact that he disappeared. Richie, someone he deemed a nerd and unworthy of positive attention, hanging out with his former friends, laughing with them. Kyle and Jason are smiling, more genuine than they probably ever were around Max, because back then they were too fearful of his wrath to actually be comfortable around him. Max sees this and is unfathomably angry, but underneath the human rage, he's also deeply upset at the realization all his work at Hatchetfield High amounted to nothing. No one cares about his rules anymore. It took less than 2 weeks for everything he built to fall apart. So what does he do? He intimidates Richie into repeating after him to hear the apparent usurper to his throne say what Max really feels. He makes Richie say this.
Who will pray for me?
Who will pray for me?
When I'm gone.
When I'm gone.
Or until another Richie comes along.
And firstly, I'd just like to shout out Will Branner's incredible expressions here. During the first part of the line, Max looks sad, almost soft, as he contemplates his place in the world. But then he steels himself, returning to the angry villain he wants himself to be. Until another Richie comes along can have multiple meanings, especially in a multiverse like Hatchetfield. But in this interpretation, I think we should instead analyze what Max really means. Until another Max comes along. He believes that it's only a matter of time until another bully rises to the top and takes his place. And then, of course, we get the line from earlier. Max turns away from Richie and he stops repeating. Now it's just Max, who has seemingly forgotten that anyone else is there. He wonders who will pray for him, and he sings the worst 5 words in the show. Eternal dark without a dawn. The wording of this statement implies that whatever kind of afterlife Max has found himself in isn't a good one. It's dark and endless. It's clear that he's going to continue his revenge plan after killing Richie, and he knows that he's so powerful he can't be stopped. But he still believes that this eternal dark is without a dawn? Without hope? Without rest? At the end of the show, Max gets dragged into the black and white by the Lords in Black. He looks directly at the camera and tells us that everything was worth it. Do you ever think about why nothing could stop his ghost except the Lords themselves? We know why he was resurrected, a spell in Wayland Hall placed there by the Church of the Starry Children, but that doesn't necessarily mean his powers were also given by the spell. In fact, if the Waylands were also turned into all-powerful ghosts by this spell, as Solomon claims, why aren't there a bunch of ghosts running around fulfilling the Wayland's last wishes to Max's level? I'm certain if one of the Waylands were given Max's powers, Hatchetfield wouldn't be what we see in Nerdy Prudes. That must mean his abilities come from elsewhere. And they must, because if you remember, he was able to see past the 4th wall before he even stepped foot in the Wayland place. So what other potential sources are there for Max's meta-awareness? Well, what about the eldritch god whose whole thing is musical theater? Imagine this. Max has always known his life was a story, leading up to one particular moment. He knows there are others watching him, judging him, and he speaks to them directly. When the floorboards break at the Wayland place, something speaks to him. It tells him that its name is Picotho, and that he's about to die, but it can help him enact revenge. The nerds are the reason he's about to die, after all. And Max agrees. When he lands, he declares not only that Nerdy Prudes must pay, but that they must die. Upon resurrecting, he finds blue veins crawling across his skin, his fingers tingling with the possibility of reaching beyond the stage, and a new ability to teleport around the theater as he pleases, not just confined to the stage anymore. He's a vessel of Picotho now. Still Max, but with the power of an entity beyond anything he's ever known. That's why only the Lords in Black could stop him, because they were what created him. We've reached the bottom of the abyss. It's just me, and you, and Max. He died angry and came back angry and died again angry, and the entire time he was alone. Except for us. We're here with him now, and we were there in the seats behind the screen, watching his story play out. And Max knows that. By the time we reached the big Act 1 finale, he understood his place in the story. It's why he doesn't regret falling into Grace's trap. It was his last wish, after all.
And I will not rest until I taste Grace Chastity's little peach.
He may not have succeeded in killing all of the Nerdy Prudes, but I think he knew he wasn't going to achieve that goal. Or at least he wouldn't have been happy if he did. His eternal dark is without a dawn, remember? But at least we're here. When everyone at Hatchetfield High worshipped the ground he walked on, when everyone saw him as a literal monster, I chose to dig deeper and explore his character beyond the persona he played for power. Now you, dear viewer, have explored it with me. We aren't the dawn he desperately desires, but maybe we're a flicker in the black. Maybe that's all he wanted. Thank you for watching me ramble about my favorite little guy. Subscribe and do all that YouTube stuff if you want. You can tip me on Ko-fi if you like my work or want to commission me to draw your favorite little guys. If you like Hatchetfield as much as I do, you should check out The Conflux, an interactive fan comic I'm posting on Tumblr that follows an apocalypse if Tinky was in charge. By the time I finally edit this video, it should be on its second episode, which coincidentally centers around Max. Alright, that's all the self-promo. Thanks again for listening this far. See you later.